Welcome back everyone, it's Aric from Rare Candy, and here today we are back with a very spooky Fusion Strike deck profile, just in time for Halloween, which is right around the corner. This time checking out the brand new single prize Dragapult deck, which I've been actually really excited to try out. You guys know I am a sucker for stage 2s and single prize decks, and this is definitely one of the slightly more viable ones that we're going to be getting out of the new Fusion Strike set. So happy to be able to show this thing off for you guys today. And just a quick heads up too, our patrons actually had early access to this deck in advance. So if you guys want to help support this channel and get some early access and sometimes exclusive content as well, you can check out our Patreon. I'll have a link down below in the description to that. And on the other hand, if you guys want an easier way at showing your support, you can always just like this video. It genuinely does help get this video seen by more people. It helps me beat my unfortunate arch nemesis, the dreaded YouTube algorithm. But with all that out the way, let's check out this deck and see how it's going to look. But up first, we have 4 copies of Dreepy. This is going to be the new Fusion Strike Dreepy, which actually is relevant for both our main attacker and also Genesect V, which we also run in this list. So the fact that it's a Fusion Strike Pokemon is its main selling point, but the attack isn't awful either. For just 1 Psychic Energy does 10, and then your opponent's active can't retreat. So if your opponent does start with something like a Crobat V, just as an example, you can sometimes trap some of those annoying Pokemon in the active to buy yourself a turn potentially and help get set up a little bit more. We also have 2 copies of Dragapult in the deck as well. Again, these are going to be the Fusion Strike ones. Nothing too special about these. We're mainly just playing these out of necessity since we are a stage 2 deck. But of course, the star of the show is going to be the brand new Dragapult from Fusion Strike. This is going to be a new stage 2 Pokemon. Has 150 HP, weakness to dark, fighting resistance, and no retreat cost. And even though it does have 2 attacks, the first attack is really the one that we're probably going to use the entire game. For just a single Psychic Energy, it does 30 times the amount of Fusion Strike Pokemon that we have in play. If we have a full field of Fusion Strike Pokemon, we can hit for 180, which actually is kind of a decent number that can 2-shot really any VMAX in the game right now. Now, 180 is fine and all, but why would we want to play a stage 2 to do that amount of damage? Well guys, you do have to remember too, we have a lot of ways at compounding our damage output, as you'll see in this deck. Power Tablets, of course, is going to be the main card that we're going to be thinking about, but we do have some other ways at creeping up that damage even higher than that as well. So Dragapult, even though it is a stage 2 and a little bit clunkier to get set up compared to some of the other Pokemon in the format, we actually have a lot of support at setting this thing up. It just attacks for a single energy and has access to the very powerful Fusion Strike engine that the new set is giving us. With, of course, the main card from that engine being the brand new Genesect V, which we are playing 4 copies of in here. Genesect V, I think, really does mitigate some of the big issues that stage 2 decks normally have, which of course is their natural inconsistency. But Genesect has the ability that allows us to draw cards until we have cards in our hand equal to the amount of Fusion Strike Pokemon that we have in play. So if we have 6 Fusion Strike Pokemon in play, which is going to be sort of our ideal at any given point, we can draw until we have 6, and of course if we have multiple Genesect, we can do this ability multiple times. So between our supportive return and our Genesects, I think it'll actually be relatively easy to keep chaining our Dragapults throughout the course of a game. Now of course the big downside to Genesect is that it is a multi-prize Pokemon and does kind of mitigate the advantage that we get from being a single prize deck, but this guy's going to be sitting on our bench. We're going to be keeping him out of harm's way most of the time anyways. And then our last Pokemon to round out the list is just going to be 1 copy of Oricorio. So Oricorio, of course, has the ability that will reduce damage done to our Fusion Strike Pokemon by 20. So out of the games I've been getting in with this thing, I found Oricorio is probably most helpful against both of the different Urshifu variants that are out there. Oricorio is definitely not good in every matchup, but there's still a couple out there where the reduction can be meaningful. And guys, we want to fill up our bench anyways. If we prize a couple Pokemon or if our opponent is quick to knock out a few things, having more Pokemon in deck to potentially slap down on the field to draw more cards and do more damage with isn't necessarily a bad thing either. Heading into our trainer cards, we have 4 Marnie up first. This is going to be our primary draw supporter in the deck. So of course, both players put their hands at the bottom of their deck. We get 5, our opponent gets 4. But the 5, even though that is a little bit lower than something like Professor's Research, not a big deal because Genesect will allow us to draw up our hand every turn as well. So effectively every turn we can reset our opponent's hand while still drawing a lot of cards ourselves as well. But another reason I like Marnie in this deck compared to Professor's Research is because we do have a lot of combo pieces moving around our deck. We have rare candies, we have Dragapults running around, and a lot of times we don't want to discard those resources. We really do want to sort of preserve those. And Marnie does a much better job at that with this style of deck. From there, we have 3 copies of the new Chili Sylan and Crest supporter card, which I really do like in this deck. This is a new Fusion Strike card that allows us to search our deck for 3 Fusion Strike Pokemon and put them into our hand. And I really like this card for a few reasons. The first of which, it doesn't say basic Pokemon. So yes, that means we can even grab things like Dracloak and Dragapult. Because typically these styles of supporters usually are most beneficial in the early game because you're looking for basics, but this one is actually pretty good because it's good all throughout the course of a game. And even though this is a slower style of supporter card, we're really not even bothered by it because we have Genesect to draw more cards in a given turn as well. Up next though, we are playing 1 copy of Skyla. So Skyla fills a kind of a similar role as the Chili, Sylan, and Crest supporter card, as it can help us get a Dragapult set up for turn. But Skyla, instead of searching for Pokemon specifically, allows you to search your deck for a trainer card. So of course that can be a Quick Ball or Evolution Incense if we do need to get a Dragapult setup, but also we can get cards like Rare Candy, which of course our other search supporter can't find for us. Also, Skyla can grab Power Tablets, Air Balloon, or an Rod, whatever it might be. And again, Skyla is normally a card that doesn't see a lot of play because of how slow it is, but because we have Genesect, we can search for exactly what we need and still refill our hand with some more cards in the same turn. And to round out our supporter cards, we have 2 copies of Boss's Orders just to choose what we might want to attack into. But getting into our stadium cards, we have 3 copies of Old Cemetery up first. So this is another one of these cards I mentioned that can help compound our Dragapult's damage output. So it says whenever a player attaches an energy from hand to one of their non-psychic Pokemon, that Pokemon takes 2 damage counters. So we're not attacking with anything in this deck other than Dragapult, so this makes perfect sense. This can especially be good against 2 prize Pokemon, since those are the main Pokemon we really want to creep our damage output up against a little bit, since we're naturally just shy of a KO. So this can be an extra way at helping hit the numbers we need to against things like Zacian V, Suicune V, etc. And for our last stadium, we're just playing 1 copy of Shopping Center as well. So I do like a heavy stadium count in this deck just because we are very susceptible to Path to the Peak. So I do want a 4 count of stadiums, but I like playing a different stadium than the other 3, just because there are times when we need to play down our hand low with Genesect to draw more cards, and we might have a duplicate stadium in our hand. So if we have Shopping Center instead of another Old Cemetery, we can bump our stadium to allow us to draw more cards with Genesect here. It allows us to pick up a tool card attached to one of our Pokemon and put it back into our hand. So this can just be a nice way at preserving our air balloons and making sure they don't get tool scrappered or are attached to a Pokemon that's going to be knocked out and targeted down by our opponent. But looking at our item cards, we have 4 copies, of course, of Power Tablets. This is going to be one of the main ways we're really trying to buff our damage output with this deck. So it's kind of like the old Electro Power, but we do plus 30 damage per turn with our Fusion Strike Pokemon. And of course, these do stack. So in theory, if you are playing 4 of these in a turn, miraculously, you will be doing plus 120 if you do choose to do such a thing. To be honest though, we're not really trying to go for big one-shots against VMAXs, we're just trying to comfortably 2-shot them. So sometimes if we whiff a basic or 2 to get into play to do more damage, Power Tablets can kind of pick up the slack and ensure that we can still go for those 2 shots. And of course, against 2 prize Pokemon, this can creep us up over that 180 amount to get up to those low 200s to take those sorts of one-shots that we need against those decks too. We of course also have 4 copies of Rare Candy. We are a stage 2 deck, so we do want to be able to skip that Dracloak evolution and go straight into our Dragapults. We have 4 copies of Quick Ball in the deck to search out our basic Pokemon. That being said though, we do also have 3 copies of Fog Crystal in the deck as well. So Fog Crystal is going to allow us to search our deck for a basic Psychic Pokemon or basic Psychic Energy. So we don't play too many basic Psychic Energies in the deck, so this is going to be one of the ways we can search those out whenever we need them. Also gives us a good target for Skyla as well if we do need a way at searching out energy, and just another way we can easily find those Dreepies in the early game too. But with that being said, we are also playing 1 copy of Level Ball in the deck as well. So instead of the 4th Fog Crystal, I've opted for 1 Level Ball because that will not only allow us to get Dreepy, but also will allow us to get Dracloak and Oricorio as well. But we still need some ways at finding our Dragapults, so we're going to use 3 copies of Evolution Incense to do that. Now, even though Dragapult has free retreat, our Genesects definitely do not, and we're going to need some ways at making sure they don't get stuck in the active spot. So we're going to use 3 copies of Air Balloon to achieve that, to give them free retreat. And like I already mentioned with Shopping Center, we can pick these up whenever we no longer need them, if we are worried about maybe a Genesect getting targeted down, Or if we had to put one down early on a Dreepy, we can get these back in hand to put down on something else. But Dragapult is our only attacker in the deck, so we definitely need some good recovery options. We have 2 copies of Ordinary Rod for that, so of course we can get 2 Pokemon from discard pile and 2 basic energy, put them back into our deck. And to round out our trainer cards, we also have 1 copy of Tool Scrapper in the deck as well. So it's going to be good at getting rid of things like Tool Jammer and also those pesky Cape of Toughness cards against those 2 prize decks that we might run into. And checking out the deck's energy, we have 4 copies of Horror Psychic Energy in the deck. So of course this is a special energy that provides psychic energy, but when it's attached to our psychic Pokemon, our opponent takes 2 damage counters if they attack into us. So between Old Cemetery, our Horror Psychic Energies, and Power Tablets, we have plenty of ways at keeping our damage output pretty high with this thing. But with that being said, we are also playing 2 copies of Basic Psychic Energy in the deck. So I know that doesn't look like a whole lot, guys, but you do have to remember we have not only these 2, but we have the 3 Fog Crystals to give us more outs to finding these on the turns that we need them. And we have 2 different Ordinary Rods as well. So between our 6 Core Energy and 2 Ordinary Rods, we actually have access to 10 energy theoretically in a game, which is more than enough for a deck like this. So that's going to be where I'm at right now with the Dragapult deck. I've really been having a lot of fun with this. I think Dragapult is among one of the more interesting single prize cards that we're getting in the set. Definitely, I think, among one of the best stage 2s, if nothing else. Though I know that has been kind of a low bar in recent sets. But Dragapult, it's energy efficient, has a fantastic engine to keep it set up throughout the course of a game, is a good type right now. But I'm definitely curious what you guys in the community are thinking about this. Do you think Dragapult has any chance being a stage 2 single prize Pokemon at being competitive in the game? Let me know your thoughts about the deck and also this deck list down below in the comment section. We'll love to know what you guys are thinking. But if you guys did enjoy today's content, be sure to like, subscribe, and ring that bell for notifications. That way you'll stay up to date with the rest of my Fusion Strike content. And if you want to take your support to the next level, you can also become a patron or pick up some merch over at rarecandytcg.com. Links to those will be down below in the description. But as always, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.